Before we get started, man, why don't you go ahead and push the little red button right there called subscribe. It's free. And you don't want to miss none of this good content we dropping on the Power Hour with Huff and Gill every single Tuesday on 107.9 The Fan. We live, baby.
You're listening to the Huff and Gill Show with your host Tyler Huff and Earl Gill on 107.9 The Fan.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to a special edition of the Power Hour with Huff and Gill. What's going on, Gill? How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. We have a special guest today. I'm
yes,
happy.
sir.
I'm
Me
happy.
too. I'm definitely happy to have him on with us today. We have none other than Mr. Matt Stepp of Dave Campbell's Texas Football. What's going on, Matt?
What's up, boys? How y'all doing?
We're doing great.
Yes, sir. We're doing well, man. We know you're on the road, so we appreciate you for joining in with us on a busy day for you. I'm sure. You said you're headed from Canada, or you headed to Canada?
I'm headed up to Canada. Here, I'll probably cross the border sometime Sunday. It's Friday about 12:50, so I figure Sunday around this time I'll be crossing the border. Kind of go east from the Metroplex out to Memphis, Tennessee, and then kind of cut up through Louisville and Dayton, Ohio, and then crossing Detroit.
Okay.
Well, that's what's up, man.
It sounds like you've driven that a few times.
Yeah, it sounds like he knows that route.
I know it well, boys. I know it well. I've made the trip back and forth a couple of times. It's not too bad. You break it up, it's not too bad.
That's what's up. So, Mr. Stepp, Matt Stepp, you are the voice of high school football in Texas. I know you probably don't want that on you, but I mean, it is what it is. I was first off, I like the update on the app. And I saw what you were saying. You said that, man, times change. This got to change too.
Yeah. When it comes to the apps, I mean, we tried to, we tried to update it last year, and things, I mean, just keeping it 100. I mean, we waited a little too long in the summer to really get rolling on the app, and then we tried to roll it out right when the season started, and it just didn't go well. And so, that's one of those things where you got to call your own foul and just step up and be like, hey, we messed up on that. We didn't have everything together when we tried to do it, and so we pulled it back last year, and so we've been working on it. The developers and all those guys have been working on it and kind of getting our feedback on the app, and so we kind of have a test version out right now with the new look and everything, and I think it looks good. I think it looks clean. And we rolled it out at State 7-on-7 a couple weeks ago down at College Station, and we were scoring games. I think it went well. So, the biggest thing now is we got to make sure that all the app can handle the capacity on Friday night. A normal Friday night in Texas, it needs to be able to handle all the games that are going on and everybody update the scores and whatnot. So we're doing some load testing now, and I think once that load testing is done, we'll be able to upload the schedules and then kind of tweak the message board a little bit and kind of add some of the features that people want. So, I mean, it's a great app. It's an awesome thing to have in Texas high school football, and we want to make sure we get it right.
So a question I got. So I saw people were going back and forth about the messaging during the games. So my name got caught up in the banter between fan bases in between games. Are y'all going to keep that component of the app?
So you talk about like the game chat, like
yes,
like LE versus PG, there's a game chat. So I think they are. I personally don't really care for it. It's just hard to moderate and hard to monitor because there's 500 games going on every week.
And it gets personal. It gets real personal real quick.
Yes, and so I personally don't like it because it's hard to keep up with. But that they want to keep it because it does draw a lot of traffic, and there's and it's how it is. I mean, 99% of the people are just having fun and talking ball and updating on the game and maybe talking a little trash and good-natured trash talking, that kind of thing. But it's always the 1% that ruins it for everybody. So my thing is if we're going to have it, we need to have some measures in place where if things get personal like that, where they start posting people's private information, there's been coaches' home addresses posted on that thing, and kids kids, these are high school kids. People, and a kid has a bad game, and people are posting the kid's address on a chat room. That's bad business to me, and I feel like if that happens, we need to have better ways to be alerted to it. So I think we will, and I think it's on. I don't want to say it's snitching, but I think it's one of those deals where if you see something that's out of line and inappropriate, especially when dealing with kids and people's personal stuff, flag it and let us know so we can delete it and take the action that we need to take against the person who posted that.
Absolutely. So another question I had was, I'm gonna jump topics real quick. I'm new to Texas football. I'm from Arkansas, but last year I followed the South Oak Cliff run to a state championship. I thought that was really cool, and I think what they did for urban communities and certain school districts who might not have certain things, I think that they gave them hope. And I think that they gave them hope that you can do things your way, but as long as you stick to the script and make sure it's being done the right way, that you can ultimately achieve, what they achieved last season. What would you say about that?
I would agree 100%. South Oak Cliff was an amazing story last year, which is why we chose that as our gatefold cover in the magazine, which basically, more years than not, the gatefold cover is basically whatever the biggest high school football story in Texas is that year. And we knew how big it was for South Oak Cliff to accomplish what they did last year. And so we wanted to recognize that on the cover of the magazine. But you're right. I've talked to guys in Houston ISD, San Antonio ISD, Fort Worth ISD, Austin ISD, and they've all said the same thing, that they've used what South Oak Cliff got accomplished and said, hey, why not us? Why can't we do that? And things came together for South Oak Cliff to get that done. And the biggest thing is that they've had a coaching staff. It seems like a lot of times city jobs tend to be stepping stone jobs. And then as soon as they get it up and running, they'll leave and go bail for a better job. That's fine. everybody has to walk their own path, and I don't begrudge it. I don't watch another man's pockets or anything like that. So I don't begrudge anyone for getting a raise and that kind of thing. You got to take care of your family first. But the unique thing about South Oak Cliff and Coach Todd and his coaching staff, those guys are Dallas guys, born and bred. They're from those neighborhoods. They're rooted in those communities, and they want to stay. They don't have any desire to leave. And so because of that continuity, I think that's really helped them and made them a really unique situation. And I think it just shows that in the state of Texas, that in large school football, you got to have talent. You got to have a lot of things go in place. But having that continuity on your coaching staff is huge, because those kids bought into everything those guys were selling from the start of summer practice all the way through the state championship game.
Absolutely.
So let's talk some football since we're on the topic of it. We're looking at your guys' rankings that you have put together for this upcoming season. And me and Earl, coincidentally, happen to be the play-by-play announcers for the Liberty Island Leopards.
Tyler is the voice of the Leopards. He's the voice. That's why we got to get you to a game, and you and Tyler can call it together. He's the voice of the Leopards.
Man, that would be awesome. But anyways, we're looking at the Class 4A Division II top 10. And number 1, of course, is no argument there, Carthage. Number 2 is Gilmer. Number 3 is Wichita Falls. Hershey. Okay.
Hershey, yeah, Hershey.
My bad.
I used to live out there in Wichita Falls. It's Ryder and Hershey.
So we got West Orange starts at number 4, and to round it off in the top 5 is Texarkana Pleasant Grove. So we have 3 teams in the top 5 that we are very familiar with. Talk about the top 5 and why 3 East Texas teams in the top 5, and how do you see that playing out, especially the 2 of them being in the same district?
You look at especially Class 4A football in Texas, and really the power nexus for really the past 20 years has been in East Texas. Anywhere, you get, from Texarkana down to Carthage, kind of in all those areas in between have produced so many great football teams over the years that it makes sense to me that you would have 3 teams in the top 5 in the state of Texas in East Texas. The interesting thing really this year in 4A Division II for me is everybody on paper looks really good, but everybody kind of has a question mark. There's no one that really has a team that's coming in. You're like, okay, they're so loaded. It's not even a question of if they're going to win it. It's just a matter of how much they're going to win it. But everybody in the top 5 has a big question mark. That's going to make it interesting. Carthage lost a lot on their defense. That's the big question. Gilmer has a question. They're going to be young at quarterback. Hershey lost their coach and lost a lot from the middle of their defense. Which West Orange Stark, they have a new coach. They've got questions on the offensive side of the ball. And in Pleasant Grove may have actually the fewest questions of anyone because they bring so much back. But I think the question for Pleasant Grove is, Gilmer's had their number the past couple of years. Can the Hawks get over the hump and take out Gilmer, who, because for a few years there, Pleasant Grove flipped the script and they had Gilmer's number, and now Gilmer's kind of turned it back around where they've kind of gotten the best of the Hawks the past couple of years. So I think the question with Coach Josh Gibson's ball club is, can they get over that hump and beat Gilmer?
So with that being said, do you see the 4A Division II state champ coming out of East Texas?
Yes, I would be surprised. My pick is Carthage. I mean, I'm really going out on a limb there, but and Scott Surratt and the job that he's done at Carthage, I mean, he's got ties to Texarkana. As everyone in Texarkana knows for sure, he's got ties to the area. And I feel like, until, even though they were beaten last year by China Spring, what Carthage has coming back, I think you've got to make them the favorite because of that pedigree and what they have coming back on the offensive side of the ball. I feel like Carthage generally is going to put out a pretty quality defense. They may struggle a little bit early, but I feel like by, come week 8, week 9, they'll have that defense up and running and ready for the playoffs.
So let's switch it over to Division I on the 4A side. Speaking of China Springs, they're ranked number 2 in the 4A Division I rankings. Stephenville is number 1. Number 3 is Tyler Chapel Hill, another East Texas team led by Coach Rio Jordan.
My guy.
Yes, sir.
Our guy. That's our guy right there.
Number 4 is El Campo, and number 5 is Salina. So kind of talk about the top 5 there in the Division I rankings as well. Tyler Chapel Hill, I know last year they went on a state semifinal run
with some freshmen.
Freshman
they were
quarterback.
trying to ban this year.
Yeah, so talk about them and just the whole makeup of Division I 4A.
Well, I think the biggest news in 4A Division I really is Stephenville and China Spring, the number 1 and number 2 teams in the state, are in the same district this year. They got, China Spring was the Division II champion last year. Stephenville was the Division I champion last year. Well, China Spring, they're just located outside of Waco. They're getting a lot of growth. So they've moved up to Division I in this realignment, and they got put in the same district as Stephenville. So you have 2 state champions in the same district, ranked 1 and 2 in the state of Texas. So that's obvious to me. The biggest story is to see how China Spring handles that really challenging district, because no one's talking in that district. Waco La Vega is in there, and I think La Vega, off the top of my head, is ranked 7th in the state in the preseason rankings. So you got 3 top 10 teams in the same district, right there in District 5 4A Division I. So that's going to be the first thing to watch. Chapel Hill, obviously, they finished 4th in their district last year, and then just got red hot in the playoffs and advanced all the way to the state semifinals. Coach Reardon has done a great job there at that program. They had, a freshman running back and a freshman quarterback last year. Those guys are a year older. Chapel Hill is going to be offensively as dynamic as anyone in the state of Texas. I think the big question for those guys is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. They have some questions to answer on defense with some of their graduation losses. So it'll be interesting to see that. El Campo down there south of Houston, the Riceburgs, they have one of the top running backs in the country, Reuben Owens. He committed to Louisville not too long ago. Some recruiting services have him as a 5-star running back. He's the headliner there for El Campo. But El Campo's problem has been in the playoffs. They've kind of stubbed their toe in the 3rd round of the playoffs the last couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get over that hump in Owens' senior year. And then Salina at number 5, that's a traditional powerhouse in the Metroplex. They were a state semifinalist last year in Division II. They're also moving up to Division I with a lot of the growth kind of there in the northern part of the Metroplex, right there near Frisco. So they've got a lot of growth as well. And so how they handle their move up will be interesting. Salina's in a really what I would call a pretty easy district. I don't think they're going to get challenged in district play, but you better believe, come playoff time in Region 2, they're going to be tested real quick right off the bat in the first round of the playoffs.
So one of the big changes in 4A football is no Argyle this time around. Argyle is obviously moved up classification to 5A Division II, and they are ranked number 6 in 5A Division II. South Oak Cliff is number 1. Lucas Lovejoy, number 2. Liberty Hill is number 3. Fort Bend Marshall, 4. Mansfield Summit, 5. And then at number 10 is a local team for us, Texarkana Texas High. So kind of talk about 5A Division II, and how do you expect Argyle to do moving up a classification? I know they've really kind of dominated on the 4A level for years, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
So let's kind of talk about how you think they will fare on the 5A level and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so Argyle, obviously it's going to be tougher moving up the classification, but I would say they got a pretty good draw when it comes to their new district realignment. Number one, they're in Region 1, and traditionally Region 1 has been a little bit weaker than Region 2 over the course of the past 30, 40 years being in Region 1. I think they're going to do just fine. I don't personally consider them a state title contender. I think they're a very good team. I don't see them getting past that, but I think they're going to have a very good year. Todd Rogers has done a really good job with that program. They've known they're going to move up for a while because, again, they're the northern, right there near Denton. That kind of whole northern metroplex corridors has got crazy explosive growth. So they've been preparing them for this for a couple of years, and I think they'll adjust football. I don't consider a state title contender, but I think they're an easy contender to go 3-4 rounds deep when you talk about the Eagles. If you look at Texas High at number 10 in our rankings, Jerry Stanford's squad got some questions to answer. They had a great year last year, got all the way to the regional finals. Number one, they're moving into Region 2. So, the last couple of years they've been in Region 3 and going south in realignment, towards playing a lot of their playoff games in kind of the Lufkin area against Houston teams. So now they're in Region 2, so they're going to go west towards the Metroplex in a different region. So, you look at Region 2 and you got South Oak Cliff, you got Melissa, who's been really good, you got Ennis, who's a traditional power, and you got Mansfield Summit, who is dropping down from Division 1 after making the semifinals the last 2 years. So the playoff path is going to be really tough for Texas High, and I think the district is going to be tougher than usual. Texas High the last few years has really dominated in that district, which is now 8-5A Division 2. I think they're going to kind of fall back to the pack a little bit. I still think they're the favorite, but I think the gap is a lot closer because some of the teams in this district have really improved. I think Marshall under Jack, Marshall's got a new coach, Jack Alvarez. I think Marshall's going to be a solid ball club. Mount Pleasant is really a team I'm keeping an eye on. Joe Cluley is a outstanding coach. He's gotten a bunch of kids that were only playing basketball out of the hallways. Mount Pleasant's numbers are higher than they've ever been in the football program. They've gotten a lot of kids out of the halls into the program. They've got a talented group. I think Mount Pleasant's going to be pretty good. And I think Hallsville and Nacogdoches will be improved as well. So I think the district as a whole is going to be a lot more competitive top to bottom.
That makes me nervous. We play Mount Pleasant at Mount Pleasant, week 3 actually,
week 3.
September the 9th. That makes me nervous. But so South Oak Cliff, do you see them repeating? I see that they have. Was Malik Muhammad at IMG last year? Did he just move back or?
No, he came back. He was there. He was at IMG, I think, as a sophomore. He was on the team last year. As far as South Oak Cliff repeating, I think there's a great chance of it. They've got a big question to answer at quarterback. Their quarterback last year, Kevin Henry Jennings, was a phenomenal player. Signed with SMU, Division I quarterback, so he graduated. And that's the big question with South Oak Cliff is how are they going to replace the production and the leadership that they had at the quarterback spot. I think everywhere else they have a chance to be better than they were last year because they have a lot of experience back. They're going to be their offensive line is intact basically. Their defense and the secondary pretty much returns intact. They're going to have, I would say, 12, 13 Division I players on the team. So if they can answer the quarterback position, I think South Oak Cliff has an outstanding chance to repeat as state champions.
One last thing I do want to touch with you on before we let you go is Mount Vernon. They're one of the top teams in 3A. Kind of talk about how do you see them faring in the 3A Division I class this year?
Mount Vernon. Back-to-back state semifinal team. I think they've got a great shot to repeat in Region 2. They've had heartbreaking losses in the semifinals the last couple of years. You got to think. I think there's a great chance we could see a Mount Vernon and Brock rematch in the state semifinals. I think both those teams are primed to continue the success they've had the last couple of years. And for Mount Vernon, I think the question for them is just going to be making sure that they're engaged during the regular season and making sure that they're kind of peaking at the right time. I thought last year maybe they peaked a little early. This year, if they can kind of stay engaged and be peaking at the right time, I think they have a great shot against Brock. It was a fantastic ball game last year, and you got to think at some point they're going to get over the hump and make it to AT&T Stadium and play for a state championship.
That's gonna be huge because in 2DB we trust.
Yeah.
But Mr. Stepp, I got one last question for you before we go. It's no secret I'm a big 7-on-7 guy, right? But my team is in Arkansas. I don't have a team in Texas. I traveled 7-on-7, but we're talking about high school 7-on-7 here. So do you see a correlation with high school state UIL 7-on-7 success and actual success in the fall?
So I think it's a matter of how you approach 7-on-7. So
Okay.
I think, you look at somebody like DeSoto who won the state 7-on-7 this year in College Station. DeSoto runs their offense that they run on Friday night in 7-on-7. They don't run a lot of quote-unquote 7-on-7 plays. If you look at a lot of their route trees and things that they don't run a lot of routes where there would be defensive linemen and linebackers. They run a lot of stuff downfield, and they push the ball down the field and throw to the sideline. So for me, when people run their offense and defense in 7-on-7, I do feel like there is some translation. It's not a guarantee; it's not the same game, but I think there is some crossover and some correlation to success. But when you see teams, run quads and stack 4 receivers where an offensive tackle would be, and they run little 1-yard routes where defensive tackles would be to get first down and things like that, it's really hard to make a lot out of that because you can't do that on Friday night. There's no way you can run those routes on Friday night because there's going to be a defensive lineman or a linebacker there to knock your head off. So I think you just have to take what you watch and apply it to Friday nights. And if people are doing stuff that you could run on Friday nights, I think there's a lot more correlation versus stuff that would only work in 7-on-7.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Stepp, we appreciate you for your time, and just know you're more than welcome on the Power Hour with Huff and Gill any day.
Always.
Any day.
Appreciate you guys. Appreciate what y'all do for high school football there in the 903, and I'm hoping to get out to Texarkana and catch a game here again real soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, we'll check in with you soon, all right?
All right, be good.